Hello and welcome on into the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge, everyone. Good to see ya. Welcome on in. My name is Sam Peterson. I'm running these Photoshop challenges for 2 weeks. We're on week 2 of 2, Monday through Friday, every day here on Behance at 9 o'clock Pacific time. And if you haven't joined these challenges before, we're essentially tackling a new challenge each day, new techniques, and we can jump into our current week's challenge. So if you want to join these and you haven't already, you can go over to the landing page at behance.net/challenge/Photoshop. And you can click the big blue button here at the top, take the challenge, you'll register for them, get notifications when we get new ones, and each day a new one is revealed. So these are all the ones we've done so far. We've done 6, we got 3 more, we're getting down to it. And today is Retouch a Portrait. So a little portrait retouching. Remove blemishes and smooth textured skin by using frequency separation to retouch a portrait. So I'm not sure how many of you may be familiar with this technique already. It's a fairly popular one. I'm sure some of the pros in the chat have heard of this, have done it, and are familiar. But if you're not, I thought it'd be a lot of fun to talk about this one. I've actually been hearing a lot about it lately, which is kind of funny. Like leading up to this challenge, I feel like I've heard the term thrown around so many times. And we'll also cover some basic retouching techniques briefly. But yeah, if you want to join these challenges, check them out here. If you're watching this and it says Creative Encore down at the bottom of the stream title, that means this is a replay, and we are doing 2 weeks of live and then 2 weeks of replays. So the goal is that you will have more time to work on these and finish up any ones that you didn't have time for initially. But if you are watching this as a replay, these will all be revealed already when you go to the landing page. And if you ever want to find out more challenges from previous months, previous weeks, and even years, you can just scroll down. You'll see the date here on the left, and you can scroll here to see all the challenges and find them easily. Click Watch Video to see the replay, and click Get Started to get the starter files. So everything's cataloged there and nicely saved for you. And of course, if you want to share these challenges, once you do them, if you want to participate with the community, chat with people, get feedback, give feedback, all that good stuff, you can check it out here on the Discord. This is basically where we're interacting and communicating whenever we're not live. Since we're only live 30 minutes a day, this gives you a little bit more time to kind of, see what everyone's up to, chat with the community, share your designs. So we got Tim here. Or sorry, did I say Tim? I was reading Tim Loomis in the chat. What's going on, Tim? We got Ted here in the Discord with some of the alien design here. I love the electricity. Reworking this a bit. Great texture. Yeah, Ted, that hair, I think that works. It has a nice contrast to it. But yeah, lots of awesome designs. I've been super excited seeing what everyone's been doing with the aliens. We got the smoke design here. This looks great. I love the kind of arced shape to it, like it's rising up. It does feel like it's in motion, and it blends in with the smoke perfectly. Lord Zero, you nailed this one. This looks great. We got a really great coloration. The one I believe this was yesterday's with the coloring a portrait that Dill did. This looks great. I really like the natural colors. Awesome job, everyone. These have been really fun to see. The monster coloration and the alien ones are a ton of fun. The lighting's looking great on this. The portrait lighting challenge. So just a great job to everybody. This is all looking really good. Yeah, great stuff. And also, of course, if you want to join these, over here on the left-hand side, this is where you're going to submit. So if you go to the feedback section, you'll see challenge. There's design feedback for anything that's not necessarily related to the challenges. There's the ask a question section under advice, where you can, if you have any technical issues or anything you're stuck with in Photoshop, you can ask there. And yeah, all the channels are on the side, but primarily you'll probably be using channel, design feedback, ask a question, that stuff. So that is pretty much it. Just wanted to highlight some of these challenges. We got Dorina with some really cool coloration between the blues, purples, and greens. I really like those color shifts. I just want to say great job. I've really been enjoying looking at these and checking out everyone's designs. And just a heads up that I am giving feedback throughout this challenge here in the Discord, as is Ted, and a lot of the community members give really good feedback as well. So check it out if you haven't already. And of course, I gotta say hi to everyone. I don't think I've done that yet. I've just been talking and talking, but not even saying hi. What's up, Wade? Got our moderator, Wadecuff, in the chat. Monica, Frank, Sean, Ted, Andreas. Hello, everyone. Katarina, Annika. What's up, Annika? Robert, Gerard. Man, everyone's here. think I said Robert, right? Yeah. Tim Loomis, of course. Jennifer, Susan, RB, Christelle. Okay, I think I got most people. Hello to everyone I missed. So let's jump into it. This is today's challenge. We are getting into some portrait retouching using frequency separation. Again, a technique I hope to show people who have not seen it already. It's a lot of fun. I really like this technique. I think it gives you a lot of control. So first off, what I want to do is just duplicate this layer, Control J. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys some traditional ways a lot of people retouch portraits, and then just contrast that with what we're going to be doing. So quick little intro to the common tools you may have seen, or if you're new to Photoshop, you haven't, and it's good to cover. First off, I'm going to back up these. I always like making backups of my files to work non-destructively. At least saving a backup. So I'm going to do Control G for this bottom portrait and just put backups. This is just a personal choice. I like to stay organized. We can get that out of the way. So we got this portrait here. And what I'm going to do here is go over some of the tools you may be familiar with. So the spot healing brush tool is a very common one for retouching. The patch tool is great. You can use the clone stamp tool. And if you haven't seen these before, a lot of these are kind of AI driven in the sense that Photoshop is trying to cover these in a natural way. You just paint over it. You can, increase or decrease the size of your brush. I like to keep it fairly small just for the little blemishes that I'm trying to remove. Now, sometimes, see this little dark edge? Sometimes it doesn't quite get it right. You could go over that again. That actually looks a bit better. But sometimes there's little blotchy artifacts that I'm not always huge on. It completely depends on the context. Sometimes this clone, the spot healing brush, that's what I'm on. Sometimes that's the best tool for the job. Sometimes you may want to try something else. But the point is that you're familiar with these tools, so you can use the ones that you need in the situations that are most appropriate. So here, you can kind of see that's doing a pretty great job. We also have things like the patch tool. Patch tool is a lot of fun. So you can grab an area and then click and drag it out, and it's kind of sampling from other areas. Now you see I sampled an area maybe I don't want, but you can kind of drag it over to different areas, and it does its best to blend it in. And depending on, there's a lot of little areas of the skin I don't really want to sample, but depending on the area you're sampling from, the patch tool it does a nice job of smoothing things out. Like that, I think, was a pretty good job. Good section for it. And it has a pretty natural look. You can't really see seams where that happened. And then, of course, there's the clone stamp tool, which is going to sample directly from another area. It doesn't really blend, so a lot of times there's going to be issues with value. But if you're doing something right next to it, it works quite well. Like that. That can work pretty well. So anyway, I want to jump into frequency separation. That was just a little overview for anyone who's not familiar with the common tools. I don't know if you guys have favorite tools for retouching, but I think the spot healing brush tool, the patch tool, the clone stamp tool are all very common ones and very useful. So that was just a quick little overview. I'll just name this portrait brushes. I don't know. I didn't really use brushes on it, but that was the method for the traditional ones. So I'm going to duplicate my portrait here, bring it out of my backups folder. We'll just leave those alone. So we'll just call this portrait. And let's see here. All right, so I got a backup. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this. So we'll have two portraits, and basically what frequency separation does is we're going to be separating the colors from the texture. So we'll either be able to edit the coloration if there's like any sort of redness or blotchy areas that we want to color. We can do that on one layer, and then we can edit the textures on another layer as to not smooth out textures or kind of make them appear in an unrealistic way. So I'm going to show you rather than talk about it too much, but we're going to name our bottom layer color. This is just for organizational purposes, and the top layer texture. Excuse me. So what I want to do here is I'm going to toggle the visibility of texture off so we just see the color layer. And it's just showing my backups down there. So I'll get rid of the That's a little confusing. Okay, so for color, what I want to do is I want to go into Filter, Blur, Gaussian Blur. Hey, what's up, Dorina? Welcome on in, everyone. Andre, I see you there. Fairy, what's up, Fairy? Feel like I haven't seen you in a while, Fairy. Hope you've been well. Good to see everybody. So from here, what we want to do is we want to blur it to the point where there's not really any texture left. I'm not going to say a specific number. I think you could do anywhere from like 10. Of course, it may depend on the picture, but I think this is going to be a number you use pretty, the same number you can probably use for a lot of images. So I'm going to do, I think, above 30 is probably too high, below 10 is probably too low. I'm going to go in around 25, I think. See how it's just, there's no real detail left anymore. Everything's just kind of blurred. It's all sort of coloration. So 25, 30, 20, somewhere around there may be good for you. It doesn't need to be too precise. I think you can work with different numbers. So that's our color layer. And we have that blurred. And now we need to create a subtracted version of our texture layer. So essentially, we're just going to go in, select our texture layer, and go to Image at the top. Apply Image. So select your texture layer, Image at the top, Apply Image. And from here, you're going to want to set these on certain things. So it actually selected the right one. Here you're going to go to Layer, and we named our color layer, or our layer color, so we know to choose that. It's going to subtract the difference from that layer. So select color, or whatever you named that blurred layer that we made. And then for blending, you want to go subtract. I think it'll be on normal by default. But under blending, you can go down here and subtract. And then you can select OK. And now we're going to have this kind of like high pass, weird looking image here. And this is basically all the texture, all the stuff that wasn't on the color image that we blurred. Everything else, the difference is going to here. So what you can do is go to the blending modes here, and we're going to actually select linear light for this. And now you'll see it looks just like the original. I'm showing you the original, or hiding them. And that's just because we now have the difference between them on two different layers. So the texture on one layer, which looks like that, and the color on another layer. So I want to make sure I didn't miss any comments or anything. All right, so what we can do from here is now we can go in and edit the color and the texture separately, which is the whole point of frequency separation. I feel like it gives you a lot of control and precision. I think the spot healing brush tool and the patch tool and things like that, very good for quickly going in, making edits, and it does a great job in a lot of circumstances. But I think if you're really trying to take control of retouching and be very precise about it and have a lot of flexibility, this is a great way to go. Now this is a step you can ignore, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do Control J for both of those layers we just made, and I'm going to put them in my backups folder because I like to have the original of those case I want them for later. So what we can do here is we can go into, let's do color first off. So I'm going to create a new layer. I'm just going to call it paint. And we're going to paint on top of the blurred color layer to change the color. I want this on a new layer to work non-destructively. I'm going to take my brush tool here, and I'm going to go into an airbrush, or it's just a soft round brush. We've been using this a lot. You know, the general brushes, you'll see soft round, or you can just crank the hardness of a regular round down to 0. And I'm going to put the flow really low. I think flow around anywhere from like, you can go 3%, 5%. I'm at 10%. Maybe I'll do like 8. Just something, you know, under 10 is probably best for this method. Are these corrections non-destructive? Yes, in the sense that we're going to be making a paint layer for the color. So yeah, that's completely flexible, non-destructive. The texture we're going to be editing directly, but I'm keeping a backup of the texture layer. So in that sense, we can always bring back what was lost if we want to. So, oh yeah, I just see a quick thing I want to address. Apurva says, I asked Sam on Discord how he made the sketch. If you're all talking about the coloring a portrait, I know some people were asking about how I painted that. I might do a little side short stream that I'll link in the Discord on my personal Behance channel just to address that, because I think some people were asking about it. So if you were asking about it, just stay tuned. I'll probably have a little update on that later. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going into my color layer, or I'm painting on top of my color layer. And sometimes I like to get rid of the texture. I think it can be a little bit in the way and confusing. And I'm just color sampling from an area that I want, and I'm going to paint over an area that I want to cover up. So you see there's the redness from the blemishes here. The texture, we can see it there, but that redness is present in this image. So I'm going to color pick with Alt or Option and select this part of the chin that's a bit brighter and just click a few. I can click and drag. I'm going to select again, click a few times, and I'm just trying to basically paint. Essentially, that's what I'm doing, is I'm painting over this redness with colors around it with a very low flow, soft round brush. And that way we can kind of cover up that redness, right? From here, you can see that when we're toggling and on off that paint layer on and off, you can see how it's taking away that redness. Well, now maybe I want to take away some of the texture, but let's do a little bit more coloration, and then I'll show you the texture. So there's a little bit of redness on her cheek there that does appear to be from that blemish. So I'm going to go ahead, color pick the area next to it, and just do this. Now you want to be a little careful because we are changing lighting information. In terms of painting, I mean, that's essentially what you're doing. You don't want to take a high value, this bright area, and paint in the dark with it, because it's going to change the form of her face. So we want to be very careful, select areas next to them, and use this subtle low flow so we're making, gradual changes that look natural. And again, this is on a new layer, so you can always go back to it. And I do like to see what areas maybe are because of blemishes, maybe of her forehead a bit. I'm going to make a bigger brush for this. I mean, if you want to even the coloration of the skin, you can do that. I'm fine with a little bit of red in the cheek, but if you want to tone that down, just a couple brush clicks there. You can always just do like 1 or 2 clicks if you want to really subtly change something. So I think with a low flow brush, you actually have a lot of control. This stuff is pretty good with a tablet, but this is totally doable with a mouse. All right, maybe we'll try some things like that. So it's trying to get rid of that, any sort of blotchy coloration in the skin. Now I got to show you the texture because this is a big part of it. So for here, like I said, I made a backup of the texture layer in case we want to bring it back, but we are going to be working sort of destructively in this, in the sense that we are grabbing our clone stamp tool. So we're not using the brush tool like we did for the color layer. It's the brush tool for the color layer and the clone stamp tool for the texture layer. The reason for that is we don't want to paint over the texture. The texture is what gives it realism and makes it look like a photo and like skin. If we paint over it with a soft brush, it's just going to smooth all the texture out and remove it. So what we want to do is we want to get the clone stamp and sample from certain areas of texture to get rid of other areas of texture. So I'm going to sample from a part of her chin because it's nearby. That looks pretty good. And just click over one of the blemishes. And I'm going to do that a few times. The more of the skin that we kind of clear up, the more we can sample this out. I got to redo that. Just click. Looks pretty good. Sampling the top of this chin here with Alt. Oh, I'm sorry if I didn't mention that. Alt or Option to sample an area with the clone stamp tool. So you'll see that little target, and I'm clicking to sample from here. And now wherever I go, it'll be painting from this area. It'll just be copying this area somewhere else. So now it's copying her chin. So you can see how that works. Now it's just sampling any, you'll see the little target on the top right. It's sampling that texture there. So I'm sampling from the center of the chin, right below it. And we can just go around doing this with the texture. So find a part of her forehead that you want to sample from. There's actually some visible skin pores or lines there. So I don't want to sample from there necessarily because it's very identifiable as that part of the head. So just select areas of texture that you think would work well. So again, this method I personally like if you're trying to be more precise. If you're really trying to do a high quality retouching job, on a very nice photograph. If you just want to do something quick and easy, it's just like a quick touch up. I like the spot healing brush for that. But if you're doing like a really carefully planned out professional sort of retouching job, I think frequency separation can be a very good tool. So I'm just sampling from the forehead, finding areas that look like little blemishes that I could clean up, and going from there. And now, I think I've heard Paul Tranny say this before, but in terms of what to remove, I remember the advice he said, which is always good, which is if it's something that's going to be gone in a week or two anyway, you're fine to remove it. If it's something like a scar or a freckle or something that's part of them, probably best to leave that in because you don't want to fundamentally change, the look of the person. That's not what you're trying to do. So I'm just selecting from the cheek, sampling with Alt or Option, clicking, and then covering up an area nearby. And I find that sampling areas of skin nearby are probably, it's kind of the best way to get a sort of realistic look. You could also, if her cheek on the other side was fine, like there's nothing that you want to remove there, you could always sample from the opposite side too. You can kind of play around with where you're sampling from to see what's giving you the most realistic look. You can always undo, Control or Command Z. That's kind of bringing in some of her freckles, which maybe I want. I don't want to completely smooth out one side. Oh yes, that's something I completely forgot to mention. Pro tip from Sean, make sure that the current layer selected is the sample source. So if you see here, it says sample at the top, current layer. Very important. Thank you for mentioning that, Sean. Yeah, it's an important thing to note because that will affect how it works. Hey, what's up, Tim? Good to see you. Welcome on in. It's Tim, everybody. So I'm just gonna, I think, wrap it up here, and I think that looks pretty good. You can spend all day on this as long as you want. Let's see here. Let's put our original. I believe this is our original. And this is kind of the difference so far. The before and after. Now, I may want to play around with the texture here. On the chin, there's some areas I think that I could get. I just keep sampling from an area that I like. You got to be careful when you're going on edges, because you might obscure that edge completely, which gets rid of the shadow. So be careful about that. You can always zoom in. You can always use a smaller brush. I like to use the biggest brush I'm able to in the beginning, and then when you get into the small details, you can always go in here and get as detailed as you need to, but sample and paint, sample and paint. That's just what I keep doing. Sample, paint. And then before and after. And if there's anything that's bugging me still, I don't know how, it depends on the photo you're using and what you're really trying to accomplish with it. There's no like right or wrong, but I don't want to make this appear like perfect or anything. I'm not trying to completely transform the image or the lighting, or that you could dull out and neutralize the areas of reflectivity and oily skin if you want. That's not something I care to do. I'm just trying to get rid of the blemishes. So if I see any coloration that's still bugging me, this is our coloration change. I feel like maybe there's some right there on the chin, the bottom right part of the chin. So I'm going to select from here. Tap there a couple times. Just sampling with Alt or Option and clicking to get a little bit of that coloration. Kind of overwhelm that, or cover up that red just a little bit, but without fundamentally changing the value. And I think that's just about it. So like I said, I mostly just wanted to remove the blemishes here. And I think this did a pretty good job. In my opinion, you get a little bit more control than you do with the spot healing brush tool. So like I said, it really just depends on your circumstances and your goals for the image. Because if you're really trying to have as much control as possible, I find this method to be great. And if I'm just trying to do something quick and get rid of stuff, then I use the spot healing brush tool all the time. So it completely depends, but the more tools you have in your toolbox, the more possibilities and control you will have over as a master of Photoshop. How you do a sample is Option key on a Mac. Yes, Alter Option for color picking, and when you have the stamp tool, the clone stamp tool, Alter Option is sampling. So Alter Option is usually your go-to for both of these tools. Yeah, it just answered great. Yeah, if anyone has any more questions, I will be in the Discord, so definitely join the Discord to post your designs, to share with the community, get feedback, give feedback. I'll see y'all in the Discord. Appreciate everyone hanging out today. Be sure to check out the challenge page if you have not already. And I'll be posting this design for you guys to see too. I definitely recommend posting the before and after so we can kind of see the difference depending on the photo you choose. But thanks so much for joining today, everybody. I had a lot of fun. I hope you've been enjoying these. We got a few more left, so I'll see you all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.